Good evening and welcome to The Point. This evening we'll be taking a closer look at the President's 3-day state visit to France. The timing of that visit, the strategic importance of that visit, and the outcome, more importantly, will be under discussion this evening with a distinguished gentleman. With us this evening is Dr. Khaled Refaat, who is the director of the TIBA Center for Political Studies. A pleasure to have you with us as usual. We'll be taking a closer look at this report about the President's visit and then continue our discussion with our distinguished guest here in the studio right after this, so please stay with us.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's 2-day official visit to the French capital coincided with several regional and international variables. This visit comes in light of expectations of positive developments, not only on the overall bilateral relations between Egypt and France, but also on the level of coordination and cooperation on the Libyan file as well as on the Eastern Mediterranean file to confront Turkey's ambitions. The visit also acquires special importance at this time, since it comes days ahead of the European Union summit due for next Thursday and the upcoming sanctions forecast against the Turkish regime. Observers view the President's visit and his discussions with his French counterpart within the framework of their keenness to further strategic relations between both countries. They also view it as one that tackles different ways to strengthen those relations during the coming period. President el-Sisi's visit included meetings with the French Minister of Defense and Foreign Affairs, as well as with the Prime Minister, to present Egypt's perspective on regional crises and how to deal with them. Among the challenges being tackled were those related to the Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East region. Other major topics on the agenda included increasing joint cooperation between both nations and strengthening bilateral relations, especially in the investment and commercial fields. This comes within Egypt's efforts to encourage and attract foreign investments to take part in major national projects within the framework of the comprehensive development process that the country is undergoing.
Welcome back. Dr. Refaat, one of the things that we noticed in this visit, worth noting to the viewers, that this is a state visit. President Sisi was invited by his French counterpart, President Emmanuel Macron, to go to France for those deliberations. But one thing that we noticed when we compare this visit to other state visits by other world leaders is that this took, it was really very polished and elegant. The reception was quite different than what we've seen even recently with other leaders, as I had mentioned earlier. What's the significance of that type of reception?
I do agree with you that the reception was elegant and was friendly at the same time. You can feel it very, very elegant. You can see the dinner at the Élysée Palace itself. You can see how the Prime Minister, the Minister of State, the Mayor of Paris, all of them received an invitation from President Sisi. And the point is, all this visit, as you mentioned, is state visit. It's in return of the visit done by President Macron in January 2018. Almost 3 years ago.
Yes.
It was a state visit too, and we received him very, very friendly too. So I think the timing is very important.
The significance of the president, when he went,
Yep.
there was a lot of pressure
Yes.
on President Macron to address certain issues pertaining to human rights. The way the whole issue was handled, actually, was quite different from even what people in France were expecting, because they expected sanctions or boycotting to be imposed. And worth noting, President Macron had quite a good position vis-a-vis that. And he referred to Egypt's role in the region, that boycotting will, in a way, sort of ruin the pace of fighting against critical issues like terrorism, for example, and regional security and the other pressing issues. I mean, he was very, very positive that he's not linking anything to anything.
You know, The question is what Egypt wants from France and what France wants from Egypt. This is the issue we need to talk today. As you mentioned, there's a lot of pressure on President Macron, and because of the offensive cartoons against Prophet Muhammad. And this is the first issue. Second issue, the allegations of the human rights in Egypt and so on, as you heard. So we have two hot files in this issue. First issue is the offensive cartoons. Second issue is human rights in Egypt. Besides the normal, old, new files we have, like Syria, like Libya, like Palestinian problem, or Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and the economic relationship between Egypt and France, the military between Egypt and France. All these files we already addressed so many times, but the two new files this time was the reviving the cartoon offensive against Prophet Muhammad. This issue has been started 4 years ago, but they revived it again just 3 months ago. As you say, the all calls for boycotting France, from my point of view, we don't need to boycott France. We need to talk. We need to talk. We need to have a dialogue. We need, as President Sisi did, to show them that our religious values, ranking over top, ranking the human values.
This is what the president said. He said the religious values are more important than
it's
human.
not important. It's the right one, because human values are made by humans, and we change it. We modify it, we delete it, we can do anything because it's a human made. But the religious values is done from God. You can't change this. And it is the only truth in the world. So this is a debate.
Well, in the press conference, this issue was addressed to
it was a
President Macron.
It was a conflict
How
point.
do you see his answer to that question?
Whose answer?
About President Sisi was very clear that we have to put religious values above human values, so to speak. But how did you see the answer? Because this question primarily was directed at President Emmanuel Macron. How did he handle that question in your opinion?
I think he has a political answer. It's just a political answer. He didn't have a straight answer. The straight answer is just say, in France we are secular. Secular issues. We don't look at religion as you in the Middle East look. Our look to as religion as we mix religion with everything in our life. But in France, you can't mix religion with politics or the economics, whatever. Because in our area, we have our values derived from the religion. But in France or in Europe in general, they consider religion as a special relationship between the human and God. They don't interfere with people's lives, not like here.
President Macron was, in answering this question, he referred to, he used the issue of the freedom of the press, that the freedom of expression.
Yes, it's freedom of press, freedom of expression. But what about the freedom of insulting human prophet? Is this freedom? This is not freedom. To insult another prophet for another religion, to hurt 1 billion people, this is not freedom. I have no freedom to insult him. Will he accept that I insult anyone in his country? It's unacceptable. Another point I want to mention now, I see no difference between human values and religious values. All should be the same. When he said and referred to freedom of expression and freedom of press, the freedom of expression, freedom of press doesn't hurt another people, doesn't offend another people. This is very, very important to mention.
The issue of human rights.
Yes.
It always has to surface.
Yes.
And the issue of human rights really reminds me of the issue of democracy.
Yep.
That there is no specific definition.
Yep.
And basically it's whenever you do something that it's not conformity with what so-and-so want, then it's a violation.
Yep.
Then you're not respecting democracy. You're not respecting human rights. What about the human rights? Because they're talking about political prisoners, for example, and some of them are even not just political prisoners. They are terrorist harboring or terrorist ideology prisoners. What about the human rights of the thousands that have lost their lives at the hands of those prisoners? Where is the human rights in violation of that? Where are those
I'm
organizations?
going to answer your question in two ways. First way, as you mentioned, what about the rights of the people who lost their lives, lost their jobs, or the orphans, the widows, or all this? Where is their rights? Where is my right if I lose my job? Where is my right? They have terrorists everywhere. As President Sisi mentioned, we have a Muslim Brotherhood for 9 years right now, and they are spreading their activists all over the borders. They went now to Europe or to America and so on. So wherever they are, wherever there is terror, that we know, they are the godfather of terror.
Yes.
And on the other side, for my question, let's put it that way. What about the Yellow Jackets group in France? How is the police handled with these
How did
groups?
they deal with them?
Everyone saw the videos. We saw how on YouTube, everyone can watch right now, how they handled it. What kind of violence they face down there? We should. This is the question we should answer.
Since you just raised a very, very important issue, a few days ago,
Yep.
there was really a bill that was passed in France about how filming police officers.
It's a ban on filming.
What about freedom of expression there? Because is this not a form of censorship?
It's a good point
Why,
too.
why are we not using the same means of measuring things? Because you have a right to go out and draw a cartoon or whatever that is depicting a religious figure in an unacceptable fashion. This is allowed. It's freedom of expression. At the same time, when a police officer is brutally beating
We saw the YouTube,
someone, a minority, for example, a black man, then here we talk about that it is legal to ban the filming, and we're not talking about freedom of expression here. Why the two? Why is this part of the world always a victim of the double standard?
It's double standard. Let's put it that way. If every country has some violations all over the world, it's from some separate people. But in Egypt, if we have some violation from someone, we handle it, we go to the court, and this guy can put in jail. But if we look at what happened in France, when a policeman hurt the African French guy there, what happened? The government had issued a ban on filming. This is unbelievable. I don't just understand how these people talk about human rights. If you want to give me a lesson on human rights, first start by yourself. Give a model. Don't violate human rights. Don't violate all the laws in the world. Don't violate the UN regulations and come to teach me human rights. Doesn't make sense. This is the first point. Second point, even the three journalists or three activists of the problem, these guys, they admit they have connections with the other countries, and they receive a lot of sponsoring money from the other countries. And this is illegal in our country. You can't go and give money for someone in France to legalize your agenda. This is illegal in every country in the world. This is double standards. What I want just, let's put it in that way. We need to put apple to an apple, not apple to an orange.
Yes.
So we had to have one rule which goes for our relation with France and their relation with us. It's quite different.
In response to the push by people in France for President Macron to take some kind of measures against Egypt because we don't really see eye to eye on the human rights file, so to speak. He said, I won't make our defense and economic cooperation conditional upon human rights disagreements. Adding more effective to have a policy of dialogue, not boycott, and that boycotting will reduce the effectiveness of our fight against terrorism and regional stability. And he was really recognizing Egypt's pivotal role in fighting terrorism and in maintaining regional stability. How is this position by Macron going to be received, not here, but back home, in your opinion?
Okay, let's put it that way. between Egypt and France, there is so many files. If you have 10 files or more than 10 files, and in 9 of these 10 files, you have complete agreement between the two countries. But only one file, you have some debate on it. Some debate needs to have a dialogue, need to sit and watch and discuss, and everyone gonna present his his supportive points, and the other side gonna agree or disagree. So we have no problem with that. But don't forget that we have 9 files of a complete agreement. If we talk about economic, we have complete agreement. If we talk about military, we have complete agreement. If we talk about politics in the area, which is a very, very hot area, it's an area full of wars, full of conflicts, we have complete agreement. If I talk about social, the culture, we have complete agreement. But when it comes to just one field of human rights, we have some debate down there. So the overall looking, we have that we look at the file as a whole. We don't have just a specific point of the file. This is a look of the European citizen. But for Egypt, we know exactly what we want from France.
Yes.
We want from France economic relationship. We want from France support in the issue of the conflict in the East Mediterranean. Between now, you see what happened from the Turkish military in the area.
Yes.
We need another support between from France in the 2 hot files, the Libyan file and the Syrian file.
Since you raised the issue of Turkey, there's a lot of tension right now between Turkey and France.
And Turkey and Egypt.
And Turkey and Egypt. How can this work to start curbing Turkey's role or ambition to somewhat revive this Ottoman Empire again in this part of the world? It is playing really dangerous role in Libya, and an equally dangerous role in Syria. And I don't want to sound undiplomatic, but it is really contributing to the fragmentation.
It is. It is. I agree with you. It is.
How can we consolidate efforts with France on this issue, taking into account that even France now does not see eye to eye with Turkey?
You need to make some ally. You got to start with France, you got to go to Greece, you got to go to Cyprus, and Egypt, gonna gather all this together. We need to have, as we have to make some, start with a political effort. If you're gonna go up and up, we're gonna go to military if you want to
have we not exhausted the political or diplomatic front?
We're still in diplomatic efforts right now. We're still diplomatic right now. We haven't been to UN yet. We are still have some issues in Victoria. We don't have a problem with the Turkish people. We have a problem with Erdogan. Turkish people who have...
Well, it's not people to people. It's administration to administration.
It's administration to one person.
Yes.
It's just Erdogan, one person. Even there is many ministers in the Turkish government. They say we don't need to put face to face with Egypt. Egypt, the largest country in the area. We have the highest population in the area. We have a culture, a joint culture with the Turkish. So we don't need to face Egypt day after day, every day. A lot of Turkish ministers.
But is Turkey listening? Listening even to, forget about the outside voices. Is Turkey in this whole scenario listening to even those that are not supporting that movement? Specifically, is Erdogan even listening to his own people?
You know that Erdogan, what does he, when someone tell him something different, just put him in jail. That's what you know. In Turkey, we have more than 60,000 prisoners just because he said no to Erdogan. You know Erdogan's the way of governing.
How come this is not faced with some kind of sanction by international organizations? Because when we
double
talk
standards.
I mean, sanctions were imposed on Libya, sanctions were imposed on Iraq because of the dictatorship, so to speak. How come we don't see a similar treatment?
It will happen. It will happen. Next Friday there is a commission for UE, and I think they have 3 files. First file is coronavirus, second file is economic cooperation, and third file is the punishments they're gonna set to Turkey. And I said they're gonna go to gradual punishments to Turkey. Everyone now is fed up with Turkish behavior in the area. In Turkey now, they have some soldiers in north of Iraq, in north of Syria, in Somalia, in Libya, and now in north of Cyprus. So we have a problem with Turkey. Turkey is invading all the surrounding neighbors. This is unacceptable.
Where is Turkey getting its strength? Because if we look at the European Union, it doesn't seem like they're in support of that action. If we move east, the Asians are not in support of those actions. Definitely this part of the world where all this mess is taking place, we're not supporting. Where is Turkey getting its strength? Where is Erdogan getting the strength to continue unilateral policies?
Erdogan has two cards, and he's a good player with these two cards. First card is illegal immigration to Europe, and he plays with this card very good. So he has more than almost 1.5 million Syrian refugee.
Well, he contributed to
the
the influx of
his deed.
I mean, the immigration is due to the catastrophes that are taking place.
What he did. So this is the first card he plays with. So every day he threatens Europe that I'm going to open my borders, I'm going to feed up you with all these immigrants, illegal immigrants, and Europe cannot accept 1.5 million immigrants at one time. This is unacceptable. These are going to make a lot of problems. Most of them are fighting before in Syria, so they have a lot of terrorists in between. This is the first card. Second card he has is a pipeline, the gas pipeline coming from Russia going to Europe. Europe doesn't have a gas, so Europe depends on the Russian gas. And the pipe comes through the Turkish land, so he plays this game. So you have two cards to play with Europe. And he plays with these two cards very, very good, actually. But now...
But why is Europe falling into the card of the refugees? Because if we resolve the issue in Syria, and part of the solution is Turkey leaving that place and respecting the sovereignty and allowing the Syrian people to resolve their conflict. If we resolve that conflict, the displaced people will go back home.
Yeah, this is the logic. What says logic. But Erdogan will never do that, because if he does that, he's gonna lose his card. That's first thing. Second thing, he has ambitions in the Syrian land, in the North Syrian land, because he wants to cut up the Kurdish army. So he needs to have at least 30 kilometers in Syria as a first defense line. Another thing, this area is full of gas, and he needs this gas. Wherever there is gas, wherever Erdogan runs for, this is a problem for Erdogan. So, but I don't think that the world gonna have more patience for him more than that. Now, enough is enough. We can't bear him more than that. So next Friday, I think we're gonna see some punishments against Turkey. It's gonna be very light punishment in the beginning, but it goes gradually up and up and up.
Will Europe allow Turkey to control the gas, so to speak, in the area?
Yes.
Because this is gas that is going to Europe.
Yep.
They're the beneficiaries. And will they allow themselves to be in the hands of Erdogan when it comes to a major source of energy?
Because Erdogan is not a single player. He plays with Russia and plays with America at the same time. So something is some compromise agreement between the two big superpowers to allow a certain way of allowing Europe to have some gas in this way. It's a big game. Gas is a big game all over the world. It's a big game. And his benefit from his location only, which is located between Russia and between Europe, so the gas pipeline should pass through his land, his location, this benefit of his location. But he used the illegal immigration card to put more pressure on Europe. But I think the European will not allow him more than that, actually. I see another dangerous game now in the area, that he put some terrorists in Libya, but some terrorists in Somalia, but some in north of Mali, in Chad, like his army. The terrorists now play like a Turkish army. Everywhere there is conflict, everywhere there is a gas, there is some terrorists fed by Turkey and funded by Turkey. They give him arms, they give him immunity, they give him money, they give him weapons and everything. And last week I saw a very, very strange, he said something very, very strange. He said that President Macron should not be in France anymore. Yeah, that's what said Mr. President Erdogan. I can't believe that some president of a country has a point of view that who should stay and who should leave in another country.
Yes.
It's not your business.
One of the important issues also under discussion was the Palestinian issue, which to the president is quite a critical issue, and in a number of occasions he said this is part and parcel of regional security and stability.
Yes.
How can we expect, or what can we expect from France, not just as in France, because France is a big player in the European Union.
Yep.
What can we expect from France in this issue, taking into account as well that we have a change in the US administration that will be taking place in a few days from now? So how will this mix work towards the Palestinian issue?
We have to know that Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas was in Egypt 5 days before the visit.
Yes,
so there is
last Monday, I believe.
Last month, yeah, just 5 days before the visit. So there's some cooperation, bilateral cooperation between Egypt and Palestine.
Yes.
When President Sisi went there, he knows exactly what the Palestinian wants and what the Palestinian can offer and what Palestinian will never accept. So the main issue, President Sisi said in his visit, said we are looking to revive the solution of two-state solution.
Yes.
That's what we need. We need two-state solution. What two-state solution? A solution, a Palestinian state on the borders of 1967, not the borders for now. This is a very important issue because there is a debate now, a big debate in Israel about what the next Palestinian state border is going to be. Is it going to be 1967 or the current border? This is issue. President Sisi was very, very clear. He said, we want the two-state solution, but based on the borders of 1967. I think this is what President Mahmoud Abbas told him, this the red line of the Palestinians can accept. But the policy of putting some settlements everywhere right now and increasing the settlements and enlarging the settlements is not acceptable for Egypt. Another issue is which a new thing, the Lebanese problem. The it was just raised 1 year ago.
Yes.
And France is the main player in Lebanon right now.
One of the first presidents to go to Lebanon after the tragic incident there was Emmanuel Macron.
Yeah, and he set the solution. This is the solution right now. And I think the French solution in Lebanon is accepted. I think accepted by the Lebanese people. So if you look at the Lebanese problem and the conflict, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, they are very, very, very connected to each other.
Yes.
You cannot take just one and leave the other.
Military cooperation. And the reason I'm talking about military cooperation and what is forthcoming in that field is because one of the statements Macron was referring to was Egypt's pivotal role in maintaining regional security and fighting terrorism.
Yes.
To fight and maintain, you need the military aspect.
Yep.
What can we expect in terms of future, or will we see more cooperation in that field, in your opinion?
Yeah, I expect we have more cooperation in military field. We expect to see more advanced weapons coming to Egypt. We see a license from the government, the French government, to the private corporation there to provide Egypt with a new advanced weapons, because Egypt is not just a country. Egypt, as you mentioned, it's a pivotal
country in the region.
pivotal country in the region, and it's the only oasis of security and safety right now. Everywhere around Egypt, surrounding Egypt, has a lot of violence, a lot of chaos. But Egypt, I think Egypt now is an oasis of the violence, of the peace in the area. So France needs to support Egypt in this issue to maintain the safety and security of Egypt. We have a combined enemy right now with terrorists. Terrorists that attacked us is the same terrorist that attacks France. So we have to cooperate between each other against the terrorists. Another issue comes between terrorism and safety and security, which is the culture and cooperation between the two countries. If you have a cultural cooperation between the two countries, you can decline a lot of the terrorism, because tourism cannot grow in a cultural environment.
We have with us on the phone Dr. Rasha Kira, a professor of political science. Dr. Kira, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. Can you tell us how do you see the strategic significance of President Sisi to France right now at quite trying times, so to speak?
It's very important, and as you mentioned, it's strategic, especially for the timing and for the reasons and for the files discussed in that specific visit. It's very important because for the first time it shows that one of the Arab countries, Egypt, or the African countries, is being treated by an European power as a partner in major strategic topics or files, especially the strategic interest in Libya for both countries, European and North African one,
Yes.
Egypt and France. And second, because for the first time the challenges are mutual. France has been witnessing the same threats Egypt has been witnessing for the past decade since the Arab Spring. So again, now that there has been geostrategic changes and geopolitical changes in this area, this has made the threat mutual between most of Europe and North African countries. So this is why it's very important, this visit today, because it helps the two people understand that the threats are mutual now, and the benefits or the interests are also mutual. With a country like Egypt surrounded by conflict, surrounded by terrorism, and as well as economic challenges, especially
Yes.
during COVID-19.
Yes. Dr. Rasha, thank you very much for your input. Dr. Khaled, we have a couple of minutes left, and just a quick look at the economic file, because now, since the president came to office, it's no longer an issue of giving us a piece of aid or a loan or what have you. It's really, he's been operating the whole economic issue with, it's a win-win situation. How can we, what did we get out of this trip in terms of economic cooperation in your point of view?
We got 2 points. We got first to increase investments, the French investments in Egypt, and he has a meeting with the mega companies in France, and all of them say we're gonna push and provide more money to investment in Egypt. Second thing is the issue of tourism. We need more tourists from France, and we are handling this by some arrangements to ease the process of bringing more tourists from France. So these two issues are gonna give a big push, a big plus to the Egyptian economy. If you have more French investment, if you have more French tourists.
Tourism was also, as you had mentioned, one of the issues that was raised. Will we see more French tourists hitting Egypt I mean, this is the peak of the tourism season, let's put it that way. And
but forget coronavirus.
touch wood.
No,
the numbers here are much, much better than in a lot of European countries. Will we see a stronger influx of tourism from France, for example, in Egypt in the festive season of Christmas and New Year's?
Hopefully if things goes the right way as we planned, and hopefully we see more and more tourists from France. We hope to have an end to such epidemic COVID-19. Hopefully by the Jan or February, next Jan or February. Hopefully at this time we can say we're going to start the new era of tourism from France.
Yes.
But I expect as long as we have some COVID-19, it's very hard to judge how many tourists we're going to get. It's very, very hard. but hopefully things going to go to an end.
Dr. Khaled Refaat, unfortunately our time is up. Thank you very much for your
You're
fruitful input. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'd like to thank you, the viewers, and we'll see you same time next week. Until then, stay safe and good night.